Hello, my Bill 4000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another Coffeehouse Crime. This is titled The Vending Machine Murders That Killed 12 People. It intrigued me. I don't know how, I don't know, it just kind of gave me, glimpses of, Futurama and robots coming over and taking over the world type shit. So I'm really intrigued. Let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with someone special. Let's get freaked the hell out to ever use a vending machine ever again. Yeah.
Vending machines. They come in various shapes and sizes, but technically they all do the same thing. Insert a coin or two, make a selection, and a few mechanical clicks will lead you to a small dopamine rush. Now that all sounds lovely, but throughout 1985, some of these vending machines across Japan led to 12 deaths and a further 22 poisonings. But who is behind these violent crimes? How did Japan react to this unknown serial killer? And is there a fear that still lingers to this very day? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to another video of Coffeehouse Crime. You're joining me today to look at the mysterious case of the Japanese vending machine murders. Now, you may or may not have heard, but I post true crime and strange cases here weekly, so if that is your sort of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime, and I may just give you a coffee. So please, on that note, grab yourself a coffee, buckle up, and get ready for the deep dive.
Bro, I've been subscribed, and I still not got a damn coffee.
This is the case of the Japanese vending machine murders.
Japan's vending machine murders. It didn't say Japan in the description thingy or the title of it.
In this video, we're traveling.
Japan's got some crazy ass vending machines, bruh. Like, they're cool as shit.
Back in time to the 1980s, and turning our focus to the prosperous country of Japan. Back then, Japan was noticeably different to what it currently is today. The country was the envy of the world, growing at an annual rate of 4%, and its economy was rocketing. Now, I wasn't alive for this period of time, but what I've been told is that this golden era is often referred to as a miracle after the devastation of World War II. Unemployment was at a staggeringly low 4.9%, and most of its population had a considerably healthy income.
I was around in the 80s. Yep.
When compared to their costs of living. In tandem to this, manufacturing and exportation increased rapidly, which gave way to a very favourable source of international income. During this time, most major cities across the country were characterised by busy streets, filled with traditional flags and advertisements. This certainly was a time when urban Japan felt haphazard but nostalgic. The 1980s were a time before the birth of modern social media, and gaming relics were yet to be released. Donkey Kong saw the light of day in July 1981, and Super Mario Bros. Followed suit in the year 1985. And after this, as we all know, the gaming empire of Nintendo exploded in popularity. When it comes to Japanese media, it is often hard to forget anime and manga. Studio Ghibli was also established in this decade, with famous titles such as Akira and Astro Boy coming into popularity.
Astro Boy!
Now, on the more traditional side of things, Japan began to experience a decrease in its rural population, as people moved to the big cities to find work during the economic boom. And of course, along with its booming economy and many famous titles came tourism. Tourism in Japan started to take off, and countries such as America, Germany, Sweden, Indonesia and the UK grew an affinity for the country. Naturally, this brought in many cultures and languages from across the world. And to add to Japan's prosperous and otherwise closed-off economy came an increasingly diverse nation. Now, speaking of Japan's rich diversity in tourism, and before we continue, I did want to remind you of Coffeehouse Crime's long-term sponsors, Babbel. Welcome to autumn, folks. The leaves are changing, school is back in session, and now is the perfect time to start learning a new language. Babbel is one of the top language learning apps in the world. Its intuitive lessons have led to over 10 million subscriptions being sold, which center on learning through real-life conversations. Whether you're studying abroad, dreaming of future travel, or just feeling the itch to learn something new, now's the perfect time to get cozy and start speaking a new language with Babbel. Having family and friends in Germany, Babbel has helped me better connect with them through their language. Since using Babbel, I've been able to pick up new phrases, reply to friends in German, and better connect with their culture. And with the planned trip to Germany in the coming months, it is also helping me better prepare myself. Babbel's lessons are designed by actual language teachers, and have been scientifically proven to help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. There are several different subscriptions to choose from, and they also offer a 20-day money-back guarantee, so there really is nothing to lose.
In diesem Viertel sollen viele Künstler wohnen.
In diesem Viertel sollen viele Künstler wohnen. So, what language would you like to learn, and what adventures await you? Click the link below or scan my QR code to get a massive 60%.
That way, when I go to restaurants, and I know I make people angry when I go to restaurants. I'm work. There's work to me. I just want to know what they're saying when they're cussing me. Okay, I know it's happening. I know it.
Off your
I just want to hear it
subscription
and understand it.
Thank you to Babbel for sponsoring today's video. Thank you to you folks for supporting us content creators. And now let's get straight back to today's video. Now, one of Japan's many characteristics is its tendency to make things as convenient as possible. Whether that be a fast and reliable train network, a well-kitted convenience store, or a konbini on almost every street. And of course, what I'm talking about is vending machines. Although in many other countries we may see an odd vending machine in a mall or train station, in Japan these are almost everywhere, and you can even apply to have one put right outside your house. Now, Japanese vending machines can serve almost anything, from your usual assortment of drinks on the go, served hot or cold, all the way down to, well, bee larvae and even bread in a can. Now, I don't say this lightly, but the Japanese have pushed the very limit on what can be shot down a tray, all for a few coins at your convenience. And of course, with Japan being all things over the top, there are even vending machine restaurants if you wanted an assortment to choose from. Ever since their commercial availability in the 1950s,
that's the best shit ever. I want to go to a vending machine and get like a vegan pizza, bro.
Vending machines have become extremely popular across Japan, serving city folk and farmers alike. Konbini were all the rage, and everyone took to its convenience, and of course all had absolute trust in their contents. But in 1985, that trust was suddenly broken when a truck driver from Fukuyama was admitted to the hospital under very worrying circumstances. With a rapidly developing mysterious illness, he told doctors that he had no idea what could have caused it. All he remembers is starting work and, throughout the day, getting periodically worse. His symptoms began with nausea, abdominal pain and diarrhea, and over the next several hours, confusion, muscle weakness, seizures and respiratory failure started to set in. By the second day, he had developed scarring in his lungs, and his kidney and liver started to function abnormally.
What the hell?
On May 2nd, 1985, and after 3 days of fighting this illness, this man would unfortunately pass away. But the big question remains, what exactly had killed him?
What happened?
The man's condition was symptomatic of poisoning, and after sampling his vomit, a significant amount of the herbicide Paraquat, which is a common plant and weed control, was found. Before passing away, he recounted his final day at work, telling doctors that he had stopped at a vending machine on the way and bought a bottle of Oronamin C, which is a vitamin-loaded energy drink commonly found in Japan. It was during this time frame that many vending machine companies were running a special promotion. If you purchased a bottle of Oronamin C, there was a chance that 2 would drop down into the tray. Now, in this case, the truck driver wasn't so lucky, but someone else must have had this luck instead, as just after his purchase, he noticed a spare bottle stood on top of the vending machine. Making the assumption that someone had pleasantly passed their luck on to someone else, he decided to take the drink. Now, this has to be said for context, but Japan is a relatively safe country, and this especially applies when away from its capital, Tokyo. Japan's people are known to abide by the rules avidly, and people are so trustworthy that it's common to find unmanned stores and stalls, where you can freely pick up items and are trusted to leave the money behind. When it comes to gifts, Japanese people are also very generous. It is standard practice to gift your neighbours when you move in, step-parents on the first meeting, and to thank your teachers and co-workers, and so on. So, if someone did wish to pass on their good fortune, and without the assumption of reciprocation, it made total sense for this random energy drink to be left above the vending machine. After drinking his first bottle on the way to work, our unfortunate victim began his second over lunch, and that is when he began to feel ill. Now at first, doctors and investigators took no note of this, but after running out of other options, they decided to take a closer look at the drink. and what they found was Paraquat. Paraquat poisoning is life-threatening, and even a small quantity can be life-altering, and this is for many reasons. It affects the liver and kidneys, but most notably a person's respiratory system, causing fibrosis and can make breathing increasingly difficult.
Damn.
For example, this is a scan of the lungs of a survivor who had been poisoned by Paraquat. The white area is fibrosis, but thankfully it didn't spread far enough for the patient to die. But here is a lung scan of a patient who had died of the same problem. The entire right side of their lungs had been overtaken by fibrosis.
Damn.
In addition to this, many Paraquat poisoning victims also suffer from liver and kidney failure, which, as you can probably imagine, is an excruciating way to die. The thought of this all is terrifying to say the least, and for someone to do this to a total stranger who has never affected their life in any form is a very harrowing concept. Although this only started as one incident, and authorities hoped it would stay that way, this unfortunately wouldn't be the case, as by September that same year, and more than 150 miles away, came another case all too similar. On September the 11th, 1985, a 52-year-old male had stopped by a vending machine after a long day of fishing. To quench his thirst, he picked up a bottle of, you guessed it, Oronamin C. Not from a shop, but a local vending machine. After hearing his drink clunk into the dispenser tray, he reached in to find 2 bottles. And assuming he got lucky, he took both home with him. After beginning to drink one of these bottles on his journey back home, he began to feel woozy. And after feeling concerned that it may be the drink, he closed the bottle and took it to the hospital with him. To no surprise, after testing the drink, it returned positive for Paraquat, and unfortunately, just 2 days later, this man passed away.
Damn.
While dying in the hospital ward, a third individual was struck with the very same problem. This one was a 22-year-old student from Matsusaka City, which was located more than 100 miles away. Needless to say, but authorities were beginning to grow concerned. A pattern was beginning to emerge, and they could only assume that all of this was coming from one murderous mind. The problem is, this was Japan in 1985.
This is
and
crazy
surveillance
shit,
cameras were
bro.
not yet common or widespread, especially outside of Tokyo. DNA wasn't a thing yet either, analysis was rudimentary and unreliable, and forensics didn't yet have the technology we have nowadays. So in short, the police had no footage, no fingerprint.
Man, that's crazy to think it could have been someone filling up the vending machines. What if it was the company saying, hey, you could get 2. I don't know. It could be so much shit. Do we get to know what actually happened and who did it? Should I just shut the fuck up?
And with something as public as a vending machine, there was no way they could extract DNA or other evidence otherwise.
True.
The government began to warn vending machines and drinks companies to tighten their security and caution the public about taking suspicious drinks. And, all in the meanwhile, these Paraquat poisoning cases continued to climb. Over the following months, many people across Japan began to fall ill under similar circumstances, and it's worth noting it was never in the same city twice. Between September the 11th and November the 24th, 1985, 35 people fell victim to Paraquat poisoning, and sadly, this claimed the lives of 13 people. These attacks spanned the entire country, and further deaths were recorded in Imedate, Mayakonojo, Habikino, Konosu, Kashihara, Miyagi Prefecture, Kawachi Nagano, Uruwa, Kodamagan, and Kanazawa. And these were only the people that we know about. Who knows how many others had bought these drinks, but ended up putting them down for whatever reason. Although it's easy to assume that all of these poisonings were committed by the same individual, that theory couldn't be confirmed. In fact, police could even identify multiple inspirations and copycats from across the country. In one instance, a college student and a middle-aged woman in Tokyo reported their drinks to the police after realizing they tasted funny. And after being tested, results came back to confirm traces of lime-sulfur mixture, which was not Paraquat, but the modus operandi was all the same. In another instance, one young boy poisoned himself in a cry for attention. He thought that if he was hospitalized, all of his classmates would visit him while in hospital. For the record, kids, please don't poison yourself.
Don't do that stupid shit.
There were other occasions too. In September of that same year, an art gallery worker attempted to poison her manager by slipping cyanide into his coffee. What an absolute betrayal to caffeine. and another
Right.
man while out at a restaurant with
You can fuck with anything. Don't fuck with a bro's coffee. Nah. Go ahead and get that drunk so no one can mess with her.
co-workers, discreetly dissolved Paraquat into multiple drinks in a dark attempt to poison those attending. All of this was due to his grudge against the company. Although this specific attempt failed, he did eventually manage to bankrupt the company.
Well,
I'm not
that's good,
sure
I guess.
why, but he must have been seriously pissed off with his employer. And after hearing how accessible Paraquat was, another student mixed the chemical into his drink to take his life, but luckily he was unsuccessful. Circling back to the point, the police had no idea who the original assailant was. All they knew was that the actual killer was most likely a sole individual with a very dark affinity for Paraquat. This was likely someone who was socially deprived and relished the fact that it was causing unimaginable pain and even death to total strangers. The general public even gave a nickname for this type of criminal, Yukai-han, which sounds similar to Yukai, which is a supernatural monster found in Japanese folklore. And this mysterious murderer could have been almost anyone. The only
That's
requirement to buy
horrible.
this
That's
herbicide
horrible.
is to be over the age of 18. After November of that very same year, Paraquat poisonings ground to a very halt, and to this very day, no one knows who killed the dozen people. It is not
Really?
actually known what happened to the killer, but just guessing, they were likely satisfied with their impact, impressed by the number of copycats, and just simply decided to quit while they were ahead. Following their deaths, the company that owned Oronamin C eventually made a public broadcast to let people know they were making their bottles tamper-proof. And to this very day, if you go into a konbini or to the right vending machine, you will notice that all Oronamin C drinks are in a glass bottle with a tamper-proof pull-off lid. Much of this case reminds me of the infamous Tylenol poisonings of 1982 that took place in Chicago, which I think many of my American viewers will recognize. In this story, tampered-proof bottles of Tylenol were placed on supermarket shelves across Chicago. It is possible that the murderer in this Japanese case was influenced by these killings, as the Chicago case took place only 3 years before their spree. The case was extremely high profile and had international coverage, and the culprit was never caught either. After the Chicago poisonings, the packaging of many medicines was designed to be tamper-proof, and in an effort to save its reputation, the company responsible was also highly vocal about this. But unfortunately, jumping back to Japan, this case has remained cold ever since. And despite hundreds of leads and almost 37 years passing, nobody has ever been arrested. But there are multiple theories on who could be responsible for the Paraquat murders. Some have speculated that the assailant could be a previous offender who had threatened various food companies only 1 year before the murders. He was known as the so-called Monster with 21 Faces. It is alleged that this was an organized group of people who wanted to attain money from multiple large food corporations. They made multiple threats to poison their stock before placing them back onto supermarket shelves for the unsuspecting public to then buy. And although it does sound similar, they were far bolder and more brash with their techniques. They often sent aggressive letters to various companies, newspapers, and the police, and, at times, had even kidnapped influential members of these companies. But the Paraquat murderer was far less boastful about their actions, and never made any public threat for personal gain. So, at least in my eyes, it seems that these two cases are totally unrelated. And if this honestly was only one person, then their murder count ranked as one of the highest Japan has ever seen, as many serial killers are often caught way before the figure of 12. Sadly, it is likely that we will never know who this individual is, and even to this day, they could be out there right now, aging and elderly, waiting for death to take their secret to the grave. This is a morbid case to say the least.
That gave me the chills, Adrian. Yeah,
pain these people were put through is honestly quite unimaginable, and all of this happened through accepting the random act of kindness.
That's awful.
And although it is doubtful that this will ever happen to you, it's an excellent example of why you should always protect your drink, be it from
Never take candy sent from strangers. Don't drink anything that looks like it's been tampered with. Just don't put nothing in or around your mouth if it has left your sight in any way, shape, or form. And even then, just still don't do it. Oh, like the worst thing I remember worrying about whenever I was little was around this time of year, you know, trick or treat and all that stuff. Like, you know, parents would always have to check your candy because there's the pieces of shit out there that like to ruin it for everyone. That was like one of the worst things I actually remember growing up. And honestly, I thought it was just like bullshit. I thought it was just like mom and dad trying to go through and look through all the good candy before I got my candy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I should have 10 Reese cups, and for some reason I only have three. You know what I mean? I always thought it was something like that. And then, I grew up and you realize, no, people are shit and they will do stupid ass shit to try to ruin someone else just because they think it's funny or whatever the case may be. And it's like, nah, nah. Had kids and it's like, dump that shit on the table. We're going to go through it. It's sad.
Night out or free from a machine. The Paraquat murderer knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted to strike fear into accepting random acts of kindness, and this played a substantial psychological effect across all of Japan. And even still to this day, this could happen to pretty much anyone. You never know who's preparing your food at a restaurant, delivering your takeout, or even preparing your coffee. So, if I were you, be sure to watch your local barista next time he sprinkles chocolate on your warm drink. Now, it is no secret that I find Japan extremely fascinating, and to
Thank God I don't like weird drinks. Just coffee. Sugar, 2 creams, cream, 2 sugars. It don't matter whichever way, but it's got to be one or the other.
add to that,
And I say that because, like, Tim Hortons and Dunkin's, I want 2 creams, 1 sugar. Starbucks, it's a little bit bitier of a coffee, and I prefer 1 cream, 2 sugars. I don't know why.
vending machine murders. That sounds very intriguing. That'll do for me today, folks. Thank you so much for watching another video today by...
Thank you so much for having me, Adrian. Like, I'm never going to the vending machine again. No, really, I've always wanted to go to like Japan and places like that that have vending machines like that. Like, get some octopus and like some General Towels and shit. Like, that'd be fucking awesome. Not no more. All my dreams crushed. Alright, I really enjoyed today's video. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, go down there, hit that thumbs up. While you're down there, go on over, subscribe to the Bill 5000 Nation, We do some crazy shit here, bruh. And, if you want to know when that crazy shit happens, go on over, ding that bell. It don't work, but it might. It's YouTube, it don't work. And it's getting chilly outside. You want to stay warm? Go down. Links in the description. Grab you some Bill 5000 merch. That's all I can say. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Man. Yeah, I make my own coffee. I do everything myself. I'm done. Nope, I don't trust shit no more.